Ruff, 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 ruff. Bow, wow, 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 wow. Hey there, YouTube. My name is Chris Hybrids, and I'm here to share with you how I'm having some fun with these masks. I mentioned in the last video that I have a young daughter, and today I decided to make a custom embroidered design for my daughter in the shape of a puppy dog nose with a mouth and some whiskers. It's a little bit different of a video this time. I'm going to show you the software that I used. I'm going to walk you through how I drew the design, how I digitized it, and then take it over to the machine to build this guy. In terms of building this mask, I'll go ahead and post the details on where you can find that video down below. Remember, just because we are stuck wearing masks or just because we're stuck inside doesn't mean we can't have fun with it. So if you already have your embroidery machine, go ahead and download your favorite embroidery file or create your own and go ahead and stylize your mask, make them yours. All right, let's get to it. All right, folks, before we get started, I just want to mention that I'm using a program called Inkscape. It's a free vector image graphic library software. There's a plugin for it called Ink Stitch. And so Ink Stitch is what I'm using to actually create the embroidery file. Again, that's an open source project, so it's free. I personally stumbled upon this application earlier today, and I just really wanted to see if I could make something functional with it. So it's a learning curve. I'm learning as I'm doing it, but I hope that I'll have more videos about custom embroidery coming up soon. All right, with that, let's get started. All right, first thing to do is open up Inkscape. What I'm going to do here is open up the document settings to make the document itself, like the bounding box for it, the size of the image that I want to be. Face mask is about 6 by 5.5 for the kid size, so this is what I'm doing. Next, I grab the shape tool and create a triangle. Up at the top, there's a rounded corner setting, so I adjust that to make it look more nose-like. I'm then using this alignment tool on the side to align the nose to the middle of the document. And now I'm just going to create one circle, and I adjust the size of it. With vector graphics, there's the interior fill color and the exterior stroke. What I didn't notice here is I actually left a stroke on. You'll notice later that these dots get much smaller because I removed the stroke. But all I'm doing here is I'm making one circle, copying it, making 3 circles, copy all of those, flip them, and then move them onto the other side. Here I'm just using the pen tool to draw a vector for a generalized shape of what I want the mouth, one side of the mouth, to look like. Then I'm going through here and using the node tool to eliminate pretty much all the nodes except the first and the second and then the last. And then I'm making that shape, and I'm adjusting the line thickness, the stroke thickness, to make it look more like a puppy dog or more what I want to do. And here I'm trying to set all the objects fill colors to the same size, and as you notice, those dots shrank because I removed the stroke color from it. Here I'm just tweaking one side of the mouth. What you'll see I'll do next is I'll copy that, flip it, and then move it to the other side. And if you notice there's a little node right at the corner of that nose, and so that's where I know that this is being mirrored across. All right, so the next thing here is I'm opening up the objects. How this plugin works to make the embroidery files is it starts at the bottom of this object tree, and it'll stitch that object first. So I'm just going through here, highlighting each object, giving them a name, so as I manipulate these objects, I can get the stitch order that I want. And so in this case here, I want to start in the upper left-hand circle and then stitch those 3, then jump down to in here I call it the right side of the mouth because that's thinking like I'm the dog looking out. But I wanted to go, the dots on the left hand, the mouth on the left hand, and then the nose in the middle, and then the dots on then the mouth, and then the dots on the right hand side. Additionally, what I wanted to do was to stitch a satin stitch around the nose itself once the mouth and the nose were done, just to give it a nice little border. I mistakenly got these out of order. You'll see later when I actually go to stitch this. In an ideal world, what I'd have is left hand mouth, then the interior of the nose gets stitched, right hand mouth, jump back to the nose, do a satin stitch all around it, just so the layers of the nose were set. All right, what I'd use there is a little tool that ink stitch comes with, which is to turn a stroke into a satin column. And so those lines there, the software knows to treat that as input to a satin stitch. All right, here all I'm doing here is now going through the tool and checking out how the stitches are going. I add a backfill for the nose because since it's pretty big, I wanted to make sure it had some rigidity to it. And so I'm going through tweaking some parameters until it looks good. Then I select all these circles and I'm going to do a similar sort of thing. I'm going to go through here, just see how they draw. And if you notice, the order is a little off, so I'll fix that in a second. But they're just doing generic fill. So I accidentally moved one of the objects off of the layer that I'm working on. I click Control Z to get that object back, and what I find when I'm using Inkscape is Control Z is undo and Control Y is redo, and so I find I'm using undo quite a bit. Now here I am stitching the mouths, and what I did is I added the satin to it, but then I could also add that edge stitch just to give it more strength and more body. So I went ahead and did that. Now all I'm doing here is backing up the file. I'm saving it as just a normal SVG file, which is what Inkscape is. And here I'm rendering it. I'm using a built-in tool to view what the embroidered file will be. All right, now I'm just going through here and reordering all these files again. Oh, actually here I'm selecting all the objects. So in my embroidery machine, I'm able to cut the thread using the machine itself. So I'm going to attach an object to all these things, which instructs the machine to say, hey, when I'm finished with these shapes, go ahead and stop or cut the thread. And if you notice there's no jumps. There was no thread jumps in that view. All right, so here all I'm doing now is I'm going to check the colors. I don't want there to be more than one color. I want all of those to actually be black. And so as you can see there, when I replace a satin stitch, those got changed to a different shade of black than what the rest of the objects were. So I come back here, click on all the objects essentially, and I'm going through and I'm just making sure that they're all set to that same square. And here I'm just seeing what the actual numerical value of that is. Oh, okay, those are the 40, 41, 42 or whatever shade of black. So it's a slight gray. These are the ones, these two here are the ones that weren't the same shade. So I go ahead and change those. I check everything else just to make sure all the colors are the same. Then I go and I do essentially a pretty render of this to see. I come down here and look, oh, there's all the stitches are the same color. Great, I'm good to go. Now, one thing I failed to check is what order they print in, but here I'm just saving the file as a PES file. I use a Brother Duetta embroidery machine. It takes PES files, so that's all it is. I created it, saved it, it's right there. Now all I'm doing is copying that file, pasting it onto a thumb drive, and I'm going to use that thumb drive inside the embroidery machine itself. So that's it for the software. Now it's onto the embroidery machine. All right, there you go. Now, as with anything that you do for the first time, you'll learn. With this pattern here, what I learned is I needed to make the dots bigger. As you saw in the video there, the stitching at the end got a little tangled, so I would address that. I would also change the order, stitching order for this half of the mouth over here. But in general, I'm very pleased. I mean, considering the software was completely free, had a little bit of a learning curve, but nothing that you can't find tutorials on YouTube or on their website for. I am very impressed. I can see myself having a lot of fun with this in the near future. I do have to admit though, the mask design that I'm currently using, I'm not very happy with it. There's a lot of moments when it stitches where it can get binded, and that's what I noticed with this mask as well, because with the embroidery in the middle, it doesn't pleat as flat. And so I had some hiccups where the fabric itself got caught in the needle. And so I had to do some emergency stops and tweaking of it. And so I'll probably look for a different pattern going forward. But the general idea of having some fun with your mask is a good one. I have a lot of ideas going through my head that I would love to share with you guys next. But this is just a big reminder for us all. You know, no matter what situation that we're in, especially right now, we can take the time to either learn a new skill or time to remember what could be fun for someone else and maybe do something like that for them. Or just in general, just share. Like right now, with me doing this video, sharing with you guys, this is just another way for me to cope with what's going on in the world today. I love sharing. I love seeing you guys watch the video, and if you have any suggestions for other things that's related to embroidery or with masks or anything sewing related, let me know. And with that, I'd like to leave you with a final look at the mask up close. Also, if you're interested in activities for your kids, if you're a stay-at-home parent who's trying to work while educate your children at the same time, I'll leave a link to my wife's channel right over here. And with that, enjoy a close-up of the mask, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.